what? Are we like Guardians of the Galaxy now?
We may be barreling towards the tail end of December, but it seems 2020 isn't done with us yet. Under the Wire, it's delivered one of the worst action movies in recent memory, and another addition to the video game adaptation Hall of Shame. It didn't have to be like this. Earlier this year, Sonic the Hedgehog hit theaters, and, in a surprise to pretty much everyone, the altogether pleasant family pick seemed to be a sign of better things to come. Only blue skies ahead, right? Well, not so fast. Here comes the latest cinematic game defenestration, writer-director Paul W.S. Anderson's Monster Hunter, to remind us how rare good video game movies really are.
Some kind of rip in its gut.
Anderson, who previously did reasonably well helming 1995's Mortal Kombat and the original Resident Evil, descends into Uwe Boll levels of incomprehensibility here, creating a film breathtaking for all the ways it steps wrong. It's rare to see a movie so utterly beholden to its own labyrinthine mythology to the point of bafflement, while also being entirely uninterested in extrapolating on it. Riven with storytelling missteps virtually from the opening scene, Monster Hunter fails to rise even to the low bar of not good but not terrible that at least a few of the Resident Evil flicks, and definitely Mortal Kombat, meet. For the uninitiated, Monster Hunter has been a popular franchise for Capcom since 2004, especially given the huge success of Monster Hunter World, which reinvigorated the series on modern consoles. It's not hard to see why both Capcom and Sony thought there was cinematic gold in them. There are monster-filled hills, especially when their previous pairing of Resident Evil seemed to work out well for both, at least at the global box office. As such, it's also easy to see why they took the plunge on Anderson's vision and why his wife, Milla Jovovich, who previously headlined the Resident Evil movies, was enlisted into the lead role of badass soldier Captain Artemis. The problem, in addition to Artemis being a wholly original creation unconnected to the game and thus a strange person to ask fans to get on board with as the main character, is that badass soldier is where her character development began and ended. How do we know Artemis is a badass? Because she dismissively calls the men under her command ladies. Get it? Because she's a girl. What a badass. Oh, she also has a wedding ring she keeps in her pocket and occasionally gazes at longingly, but don't worry, it won't matter in even the slightest way. Artemis and her team are on a mission in an anonymous stretch of desert when a mystical portal shunts them over to another dimension. It's not long before attrition and Darwinism leads to Milla becoming the final girl, at which point she finally makes the acquaintance of the Hunter, played by renowned martial artist Tony Jaa. Okay, so here's a big problem. Tony Jaa is clearly the lead, or at least he should be. That's no slight on Jovovich's action or acting chops, both of which are fine, but it is an acknowledgement that, within the world of the story, the actual Monster Hunter should be our central focus in a movie called, Monster Hunter. But by resting the story on Artemis, who is herself not particularly interesting, we're looking at the Hunter from the outside in, and we never get a sense of his motivations beyond immediate survival. And while this is obviously meant as an origin of sorts to see Artemis take on that Monster Hunter role, that journey doesn't feel particularly earned or necessary, nor does it culminate meaningfully. And the limited amount of screen time given to Jaa just draws attention to a more interesting story we're not getting. Also not helping is the language barrier between Artemis and Hunter as they try to work together, leading to long stretches of the two communicating in grunts and glances. What follows is a final showdown with a lot of dodgy CGI, quick cuts, and some mystic mumbo-jumbo about closing the portal between the two worlds. In the end, we have a dull-looking film that pays lip service to its underlying source material while striving mightily to make it palatable to a larger audience it seems doubtful will even show up. So, who is this movie aimed at?
Let's do this. Never mind. Let's go.
Monster Hunter runs just over an hour and a half, but feels about twice as long thanks to its listless, meandering plot devoid of our central focus or any meaningful world building. Obviously, with any movie like this, there are franchise hopes built into the mix, especially when talking about a game series as successful and long-lived as this. But there's a very particular hubris about the blatant sequel setup served up in lieu of any kind of emotionally or intellectually satisfying conclusion. Sequel hopes that one imagines will go unfulfilled. For more movie reviews, check out what we thought of Wonder Woman 1984 and Soul. And as always, be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you like to watch IGN.